Joining us in the Movieland Spotlight this month is Larry Kasanoff, a producer known from his work in the Mortal Kombat movies. Thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's great to be here.
Can you tell me a little bit about how you got started in the film industry and who inspired you?
I wanted to be a movie producer since I was a little kid. My father took me to see a James Bond movie when I was a little kid, and I walked out and I said, I want to be James Bond, but what's that guy producer? What does he do? And my father explained it to me, and that was it. I knew from day one I wanted to be a producer. And I got very lucky, and out of school, I got a great job as head of production and acquisitions for an independent film company called Vestron. This was in the late 80s, and they were growing on the wave of home video. Home video in those days was like streaming today, a new medium, the needed product. And my job out of school was to run a film division and deliver 80 movies a year to the company. Make them, buy them, co-produce them. We don't care. If you lose money, you're fired. And that was my job. And so mostly we made rom-coms and fun action movies and things like that. But then one day I got a script for a movie called Platoon. And Platoon, if you don't know it, it is a very serious movie about the Vietnam War and the effect it had on kids. The tagline is, "The casualty of war is innocence." And I wanted to make it. And my boss said, this isn't the kind of stuff we make. It's too serious. No one in it is famous. The director had done a movie that we co-financed prior, but he wasn't famous either. But I was new to the job, and my boss said, listen, you're head of production now, so it's up to you. But, there's always a but, if you fail, you're fired. What do you want to do? And so I took a shot and I greenlit Platoon. And thank goodness, when I saw it early at a film market. They showed it to me in Milan. And I called home like giggling because I said, I'm the first guy to giggle his way through Platoon because I said, oh my God, I'm not getting fired. It's so good. I'm not getting fired. And it was so good that it won Best Picture that year at the Academy Awards. And I ran into the director, Oliver Stone, a few months later at a bar in New York. And he said, I always liked you, kid. You have a touch of the madness. And I thought, a touch of the madness? Is he calling me crazy? Am I crazy? But then it occurred to me, my boss had a touch of the madness by letting a 25-year-old kid run an 80-picture film slate who had no prior experience. Oliver had a touch of the madness by insisting on doing a Vietnam movie the way no one did. And I had a touch of the madness by betting the best job in the world on one movie. But that imprinted on me, and that philosophy is the one I've used ever since. You have to embrace the touch of the madness to be really creative. The more that you can't do it without if you want to be great. The current of the river of life will always pull you towards the middle, and others will eclipse you if you want to stay in the middle. To get out of it, you got to embrace the madness and do unusual things and be innovative. And that's how I've tried to run my entire film, but actually my entire life ever since.
I'm glad you took that leap of faith and went all in for that one, and it sincerely paid off for sure. And that's an amazing story. For those who aren't familiar with what a producer does, just want to get it from your own words because it's kind of obvious what a director and a writer does. So what is your key role in a film when it comes to producing a film?
The best analogy, if you're familiar with it, is a producer is sort of similar to a real estate developer. A real estate developer will look at an empty plot of land and say, I see a shopping mall. I see a mall built like the future. I'm going to have this store and that store. We're going to do something unusual. We're going to have concerts every Saturday night. And then he's got to get an architect and tenants and market it and get the financing and oversee the building of it and oversee the opening of it. And that's what a producer does. A producer says, I got an idea. Maybe this video game should be a movie, even though there's been no hit movies from video game before. But here's my idea. And so this is what I'm going to do. I got to get the rights. I got to figure out creatively who's going to direct it. I got to creatively oversee it. I got to financially oversee it. And I got to oversee the marketing. So you oversee all those aspects of it in order to get the vision to the world. And that's what you do.
I got you. Well, you also founded Lightstorm Entertainment with James Cameron and worked on hit films like Terminator 2 and True Lies. Is that right? Yeah, so you still actively working with James on Lightstorm, or are you off on your own thing?
No, I left Lightstorm actually because of Mortal Kombat, because we were starting True Lies, and I wanted to make some other movies, and Jim didn't, and he was certainly right. He went off and made the greatest movies ever, but I had gotten the Mortal Kombat bug, and so again I gambled, and we'd already started True Lies, and I left to go take a shot on Mortal Kombat.
Before we dive into Mortal Kombat, I got to say, what was it like working with Arnold Schwarzenegger?
He was the greatest. I'm telling you, Arnold was the greatest. And in a short example, when we were making Terminator 2, it was the most expensive movie ever made. So we were trying to do everything we can to make sure we had all our bases covered in terms of merchandising, ancillary rights, promotion. And in those days, MTV actually played music videos, and they played them a lot, and people watched a lot. And if they liked your music video, they'd play it like 15 times a day for free.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make a music video of the movie. The studio said no, but I still went, Touch of the Madness. I still went to everybody. The director said great. And I went to Arnold, and he said, I'll do it. He wasn't contractually obligated if you get the best band in the world. And the best band in the world, I said, okay, who's the best band in the world? And his brother-in-law was in the music business. So he called his brother-in-law and said, who's the best band in the world? And his brother-in-law goes, and he said, Guns N' Roses. And he said, no problem. I didn't know Guns N' Roses. I had no idea. But I called him up, and I went and I got Guns N' Roses. And as soon as we got them, he was great. We invited Guns N' Roses to a screening. Arnold came. Arnold and his then wife had a dinner party for the band. I mean, we made the video, and it became a video of the year for MTV, and it all worked. So he was always, whatever is the best, I'll do if we can do it the best. He's such a great attitude. It was really inspiring. He's the only actor I've ever met in my life who's not insecure.
That is unreal that the reason behind You Could Be Mine is on my playlist is because you orchestrated that. That's another, that's a great play right there. Even if you didn't know who they were, you made that work.
No, I knew who they were. Arnold did.
Oh, you did? Arnold didn't. Sorry.
I'm not sure. Arnold knew who they were. No, but no, and it was great because, the band was coming out with the album Use Your Illusion, which was going to be the album of the year, if not the decade.
Right.
And so, we did pick that song, and they wanted us to pick that song. So it all worked out, and it was a great time, and making the video was crazy. We had Arnold and Guns N' Roses, and it was nuts, but it was a great Touch of the Madness example. And we just kept asking questions. One of my tenets of how to do this is once you get your head set on something, I'm going to make this movie or whatever you do, you've got to ask anybody anywhere in the world for anything you want until you get it. You got to be relentless. So I asked Arnold, I asked the band, I asked the record company. There people would yell at me, "What are you crazy? We're not going to do this." But I kept asking, and they all did it.
Did you have anything to do with getting the Terminator 2 Nintendo game being made?
Yeah. That actually led to how I got Mortal Kombat. So I made the video game deal, and we were the first movie to ever let a video game company shoot on our set of a live action movie. And we also had a deal with an arcade game company called Midway, and I got friendly with them. And the arcade game became the #1 arcade game in the world at the time. And I got friendly with them, and a little bit later, they said to me, we were chatting one day on the phone, and they said, we're testing a game in an arcade in Chicago, which is testing so well, it might beat your record. And I said, well, no way we can have that. And I was going to be in Chicago the next week, so I said, I got to come and see it. I was just sort of being friendly. And I played, they had one game in Neil Nicastro's office. He was the CEO of Midway at the time. He had one game there and one game in an arcade. So I played it in his office for 10 minutes. I turned around and I said, this is Star Wars meets Enter the Dragon. It's my two favorite genres. It's fantasy and it's martial arts. And if you give me the rights, I guarantee you I will make this in every medium in the world: movies, TV, animation, live tour. And you know what he said? He said, piece of crap video game. So it took me all summer to convince him that his game was great. And they did license it to me eventually, and the rest is obvious. But that's how I got it. So the dealing in the video game rights to Terminator 2 led to me finding Mortal Kombat.
Wow. I keep trying to sway us not into Mortal Kombat yet, but we keep going into it. I'm eager to get into it, but it's amazing. So I'll touch base on that in a minute. But that Terminator 2 Nintendo game, I still have the cartridge back there, the one I used to play in the 90s for sentimental reasons. I played that so much. I love it. All the merchandise that came out with Terminator 2. Even got the show bag with the glasses and the gun. I have fun memories of that.
No, we were so careful about everything we can do to make sure this movie's a hit. But it was a hit because it was a great movie.
I was pretty young, but I was obsessed with it. Terminator 2 has to be one of, if not the best sequel of all time. Gotta say, very, very big congratulations on that. Was there any other fun stories on the set of that one?
It was really exciting. And the thing that always... This is only sort of personal to me, I guess, but there's so many breakthrough things that Jim invented on that movie, and one of them was how to use, CGI and digital animation in a way that no one had, in an extensive way that no one had done it. And again, it was a very expensive movie, and it was a risky proposition, like all the great movies are. But it occurred to me at one point, halfway through the movie, that the studio, who was great, and they rolled with us in all the financial, risk and everything, they didn't realize that the effects were theoretically known, but they'd never been done before. And I thought, oh my goodness, halfway through I was arguing with the budget. I thought the dailies were so good, it was easy to do my job, which was go and keep the studio happy, even though they wanted to spend less money. What studio doesn't? But anyway, halfway through the movie, the night before Christmas, on a set in Fontana, which is west of here, in an old, I think, some sort of steel mill or something, where we were shooting one of the scenes, the guys from Silicon Graphics came with the first finished shot of the T-1000, and all huddled around in a trailer. It was freezing. We thought, got it. Look, it works. It's amazing. It's all gonna work. So I always think of that moment as the moment. It was halfway through the movie, and I think what got us there is the studio didn't quite realize what a risk they were taking. Or maybe they weren't taking that much of a risk, but it depends on how you look at it. But anyway, but it was a great experience. It was just fascinating and exciting. But mostly it was all, I'm telling you all the financial stories and marketing stories. It was a great movie because it had a great director, great cast. Everyone worked like crazy. It was a great script. And look what happened. I mean, that movie is predictive of what we talk about today. I have conversations today in real life that mirror exactly the the conversations we had about the fictional movie back then.
Would have been an absolute blast to work on that. But yeah, moving on. Your name is obviously forever linked to Mortal Kombat and its place in video game movie history. Looking back nearly 3 decades now later, what are your strongest memories from bringing the original film to the big screen?
Oh, wow. I have so many of them. I mean, the first movie was really so special because no one had made a hit movie from a video game before. Everyone told me my career was going to be over and this was it. And nice try. It was nice knowing you. We wound up on a beach in southern Thailand and in an old temple city in Thailand called Ayutthaya, making the movie. The crew and the people. I mean, I know you had Chris Kasanoff. Still, some of my best friends are from that. Yeah. And so the memory was, we had to make it work. It was my new company. It had never been done from a video game before. We all loved it. And the memories are just mostly how wonderful everyone was. I know it's easy for a producer to say this in hindsight, but you don't have this on every movie. How great really the group was and still is. A lot of these people we are still our good friends and we still work with. So we made lasting friendships, a series of movies that 30 years later we're still making. I'm an executive producer of the latest one. And when this came out, I said 31 years later, we're still doing this. Isn't that great? And everyone told me I was crazy.
No, definitely not. But yeah, with the weight of Street Fighter, Double Dragon, and Mario Brothers being box office failures, all of which released within a few months of each other, and Mortal Kombat following, what gave you the confidence that Mortal Kombat could work as a major motion picture and succeed past those films?
I think the mistake that everyone made in those days is they thought they were making a movie out of a video game, and I didn't think that. I thought we were making a movie out of the essence of the video game, what the video game is based on. So if you look at an intellectual property or a thing like Mortal Kombat as a pyramid, most people think, the top of the pyramid is the video game because that came first. I thought, no, it's one down the rung, and one up the rung at the very apex of the pyramid is the essence, the story. Why is this game great? And in my mind, it's just my mind, I always thought the special sauce in Mortal Kombat was empowerment. It made you feel great, the game. When I was wandering around the arcades that summer when I was trying to decide if I should bet my career one more time on another movie, and I kept walking around the Mortal Kombat game and watching it and stuff, an 11-year-old kid slapped a quarter down in the arcade, which is what you did in those days, and looked up and said, I challenge you to Mortal Kombat. And then the kid beat the hell out of me. And you know how Mortal Kombat is, Sub-Zero loses, you win, a flawless victory.
Yeah.
The kid felt great. And I thought, if that kid now has such confidence, such empowerment, he just beat an adult in the game. Right then and there, I decided to do it. So my point of view back to it is you're making a movie from the essence of the game. So the first thing we did was we added a backstory to the game, which didn't really have one. And that essence we put in, and that became, eventually we had it was like a 500-page Bible of Mortal Kombat movies and TV shows and stuff. But it was I didn't think we were making a movie out of a video game. I thought we were making a movie out of the essence and the story the video game was based on, even if there really wasn't one, and it was just in Ed and John's heads, and became one. That was the difference. And that's still the difference. That's still how I look at it.
Yeah, the other 3 films, while they are great in my opinion, like I know there were failures, I still love them. They really dramatize stuff that drawn out stories, less fighting, and Mortal Kombat, like as soon as the logo hits and the scream Mortal Kombat hits, my adrenaline was through the roof. I don't think it really like went down. The energy was at its peak all the way through the film.
The pacing was great. And here's when we finished the first cut of the movie, you test the screen into an audience. And the audience said 99% loved the movie, but they all had a but, we want more fights. And the studio, New Line, in those days was great. And we went back and we shot 2 more fights, which I think are the best fights in the movie, which is the Reptile Liu Kang fight,
yes,
and the Sub-Zero Johnny Cage fight. And we added those, and that did change the movie, and because the pacing of it was great. But we also, I mean, even though I talk about the essence of the film, we also didn't do what I said to Neil Nicastro that first day. I think this is a combination of Star Wars meets Enter the Dragon, and by that I meant we could take what is essentially the story of an old Hong Kong martial arts movie, keep the martial arts authentic and great, but glitz it up, put in great effects, great locations, great looking cast, great music. The music, we wanted to use EDM, dance, electronic dance music. That was the first, and so we go to one record company, I shouldn't use any names, but we have this amazing deal, and they wanted to put in, I won't say who, but they wanted to put in 2, dueling guitars, and we said, no, electronic dance music. They said, get out of here, cancel the deal. Then we went to another record company, and we had half the deal, but still pretty good. Same thing happened. They wanted to put in a kind of female pop singer who was great, but not for Mortal Kombat. Cancel the deal. And we wound up giving it to a low-budget label who never really had a hit, or certainly not in that capacity. And it was the first ever million-selling EDM dance music. So we did all these unusual things. If we were going to do something different, and our tagline was "Nothing in the world has prepared you for this," we had to show the audience things nothing in the world has done. So you have to be willing to back up your positioning. If I'm telling the world I'm going to do something different, I got to do something different. So the music, the look, the attractiveness of the cast, the fights were all authentic fights. If you saw someone do a move, they did the move.
Yeah.
Like I told you the moment on Terminator 2 where we saw the first effect and said, we got the movie. I always in my head have a few key scenes. And when in the Reptile Liu Kang fight, when Liu runs and jumps up and lands with his hamstrings on Reptile's shoulders and then sits up and flips them, I knew he had the movie. I knew he had it because you never see stuff like that anymore. And so that was it.
Yeah, you touched on so many topics there I have questions for, so I'll try to pick at them as we go. But I don't think I ever seen a fighting film with techno and metal behind it before this film. I was already like a big techno head with the Thunderdome compilations, so this was just bliss for me. And I know you probably won't believe me, but I listened to the Mortal Kombat soundtrack almost every day. Like it introduced me to bands like Fear Factory. Gravity Kills is probably one of my favorite songs.
Yeah.
The Reptile theme, I love it so much.
We later hired KFMDM to score a movie for us. So
that's probably my least favorite song, but like I still appreciate it. But Gravity Kills is one of my favorites.
It was great. No, it was the first ever fight movie that we're aware of that did use EDM. EDM was fairly new in those days.
It made it so much more high energy. Like it was very, very good idea.
You know why? Because there's another mistake people make. They tend to put in music where the lyrics are important. And in a movie, that's not right. Because what the music is doing in a movie is accentuating the scene. So when you watch the audience as a producer, when you watch a test audience, I usually sit in the front and look at the audience. If the audience is going like that, you got them. If they're sitting there going, very nice, you don't have them. And it's the beat. It's the dance beat. It's not really the words, because a lot of times you don't even use the words. And so people, they get these songs that are like tough guy songs, hip hop songs with tough words, but the beats are kind of mellow. Can be mellow.
Yeah. Soundtracks are so important for movies for me today, and they're not done the way they were back then now. Like I appreciate like real bands, and like so you say with music videos like you did with Terminator 2, bringing in the movie to the music video. Like I wish they'd do more of that. Like I wouldn't say there's many artists I like really now that would make it work, but the soundtrack
they don't
is
do it
ace.
because it's all financially based. The deals are different on music. You can't get the kind of deals we used to get from a record company. But it doesn't mean you shouldn't be creative as much. You just have to figure out a different way to do it.
Don't get me wrong, I love a good score, but the music is very important. Like those songs live their own life. I'm listening to the Mortal Kombat soundtrack, and I'm thinking about Mortal Kombat while I'm driving, you know, like, so it has that bond connection to it that's very special. So again, I can't preach how much I love that soundtrack. Very well
thank
done.
you. That's great.
But yeah, that reptile fight, I'm surprised that was a last minute thing. It is the best thing about, like, the best fight to me, the highlight of the film too. So I highly agree with that. And Reptile became my favorite character at the time.
Well, it
with
wasn't
Liu
a
Kang.
last minute thing. I mean, we decided to do it, you know, after the first screening of the movie, but we spent a ton of time working on that fight.
Yeah, it's the biggest fight in the film, I believe. Like the longest fight. It feels like it goes on a
I think
while.
it's that fight and the Johnny Cage Scorpion fight. Both of them were really long fights.
I do have one question about the reptile fight, and I'm sure a lot of people in the Mortal Kombat community have this same question, and it's popped up on memes lately too. What is Johnny Cage doing during the reptile fight?
Oh, well, you know, whenever you have a movie like this and you think, you know, it's supposed to be a one-on-one fight, you have to sort of figure, what do you do with the other characters? Because, you know, you don't want them all to pile in. And so, you know, we like to use anything you want. He never went, you know, when Reptile, they broke through that wall and that's where they went into, he never went in there.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I would have assumed that Johnny was, remember, there's another part of the movie where they look down a creepy hallway and he says, Sonia, you go down there, see if there's anything wrong, and then come back and tell us. And I think that's what he did. He said, Lou, you take care of this guy. I'll stand guard outside. I figured he was doing something like that.
That's a good point. I wanted to hear it from your perspective first, because online people are saying he's the DJ and he's playing the song.
That's right.
But no, yeah, he's standing guard. Good point. Good point. Yeah, Christopher Lambert as well. Portrayal of Raiden was unreal, and this was my first impression of him because I was pretty young, so I was not familiar with Highlander or anything. What was it like working with Chris on the set?
So Chris and I didn't know him before the movie. I loved Highlander and his other movies. And early on in the movie, when we were in Thailand, we decided to we had a weekend of not shooting. So we decided we'd take a weekend in Bangkok. And in that weekend, we became best buds, and he's still one of my best friends today. And what I discovered about him is he's funny as hell. He said, you don't usually see this because, you know, like when he wasn't on set, but he was, you know, you shoot two people and sometimes you just over one, not seeing the other one, you're doing close up on one of them, but the other one is still there in the scene. He would always make funny faces and he would do funny things. And so the thing that Chris really did, because we wanted a wise ass Raiden, the scene where he says, as they're going, the fate of the world depends upon you. It just wasn't coming out right. It was important. It just seemed too corny. And so he recorded the line the way it's in the movie, which is, the fate of the world depends on you. Sorry. The idea was like, there's no fucking way you can do this. But you three guys, or three people. But it was hysterical. And he was just kidding around. But we kept it in the movie. And it established his character. So you gotta cast people and let their true self, like the true essence of the movie, the true essence of the actor come out. So Chris was great because he was a kick-ass, funny Raiden. And he was a wise ass. And we love the idea of a wise ass thunder god. So he was perfect for that, because in real life, he's a wise ass.
That's amazing. So just to be clear, so wise ass Raiden wasn't originally in the script. It just kind of
wise ass Raiden was originally in the script,
but
he made it really special.
Okay.
And in that line where he cracked up in the fate of the world depends on you, that wasn't written that way.
I love it so much. The comedy he brings, the awkward comedy, you know, no one else is laughing.
Yeah, no, he's hysterical. I used to try and get him to play the Pink Panther all the time, but it never worked out.
Yeah, after seeing him in Mortal Kombat, like I dug through all his filmography, Fortress being one of my favorite of his. And of course, then Beowulf came out, which I'll get to later. I love that one too. I also heard the budget was pretty limited to have him on set, and like it didn't require him to be there as much. So he showed up on his own free of charge. Is that right as well?
No.
Don't recall that.
I mean, Chris got paid well and did great and was there all the time, and he's very into his movies. I mean, he's always trying to help, and what else can I do? And what about this and what about that? And he's always trying to make it better, like Arnold. You know, most of these great actors who have become big stars, they're not what you think. They're great guys or women. They're helpful. They're humble. They work hard. They really contribute. They're part of the movie. They're the best. And so Chris was like that. So I don't recall him It wasn't really like that, where he had a number of days. It was, here's the script, here's your schedule, and he was fantastic. And he was
Oh,
always very involved with the cast and the crew and anything. So it wasn't like, oh, you showed up today and you weren't paid for today. We didn't really account that way.
I didn't mean it that he was like greedy for money or anything. I just seen something online that he wasn't required to be there, but he just kept showing up and trying to help, and like the budget wasn't allocated for him, but he still showed up. He wanted to
No,
contribute.
there was nothing in the budget. I mean, he was just, he did his job and he was great
Okay.
at it, and he was incredibly helpful.
Yeah, amazing. Well, another person, Bridget Wilson, apparently replaced Cameron Diaz as Sonya Blade last minute due to an injury. I was curious, how would the film have played out with her instead? And was there any video of her, or was this like an early injury before you got started filming?
It was in training a week or two before we were set to go.
Oh, wow.
Cameron was just very, very gently punching a bag, and just a freak accident. She just broke her wrist, and she couldn't do it. Cameron would have been great. Bridget was great. You know, I always, you look at almost any movie. If you look at Casablanca, one of the best movies ever made, not one of those main cast was their original choice for the movie. So these movies always have a way of coming together, and you have to just roll with it and think, okay, well, what can we do? I mean, Cameron was great, but she had this unfortunate accident, so we'll find someone. And then Bridget, we had to grab, and with no training at all, but it all worked out. So, I mean, I never really spent a lot of time thinking, what would it have been if so-and-so weren't? Because that's not the way it worked out. Cameron would have been great, and Bridget was great.
Yeah, Bridget was great. But yeah, curious, was anyone else that was recast last minute or almost cast that you wanted to see in the film?
No, on the second movie, we tried everything we could do to get Chris in it, but the schedule just didn't work because he was shooting another movie in France, and we flew to France and tried to work out the schedule with their people, but we just couldn't. But was there anyone else who we wanted? I mean, after we couldn't do Cameron, we kind of did this quick rush that we went to meet people like Cindy Crawford and people like that, the supermodels of the day, to see if we could get them. But again, the training and the schedule couldn't work. And Bridget had just done a movie,
Billy Madison.
Yeah. And she did another movie before that, an action movie. I'm blanking on what it was, but she was really good in it. I think with Arnold, actually. Right. And she was really good in it.
Oh, Last Action Hero.
Last Action Hero. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And so she was really good in it. And so that was it.
Yeah, great. That's good to issue. I know Mortal Kombat was kind of developed, the video game, based on Bloodsport with Van Damme, and he kind of declined to be a part of the game. Was there ever an intention for him to play Johnny Cage? I heard he dropped it to do Street Fighter instead, or was there any intention for him to actually be Johnny Cage?
No, because as much as I love Van Damme and those guys in those movies, again, look at the poster. Nothing in the world has prepared you for this. Starring everyone you've seen in every martial arts movie already made. You can't do it. You got to take a risk. And so it wasn't that we didn't like Van Damme. Van Damme was great. I'd still work with Van Damme today. But in that movie, we were saying, this is new. You can't do that, because then you're not delivering on your promise to the audience.
All right. I always seen rumors that he turned it down to do Street Fighter to get more of a main role, because Johnny Cage was a side character. So he wasn't never offered the role. I
mean, maybe he was offered a role in the game early on before I got to it. I don't know, but we never offered him a role in the movie.
Damn. Okay. Yeah. Either way, I totally agree. Seeing fresh new faces, like Robin Shou was I've never seen him before anywhere. So casting him, I'm pretty sure, was this his first big role, I believe?
Yeah. Well, no. Yeah. He had done, he'd done the movie with Chris Farley, Beverly Hills.
Oh, Beverly Hills Ninja. Yeah. That was later on, I believe.
But that was after? Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
I thought it was before. Yeah.
It's a shame he hadn't done much more. He carried this film with justice. He was badass. I really loved Liu Kang, and it's a shame he's not a centered character in the new films as well. Not to say Robin's playing that, but I was expecting Liu Kang to be center of the new films as he was this one.
Again, I don't want to speak for Robin. He was great. He's got he's happy. He's got another kind of life now, and I think that's what he wants to do. I had a big thing in Mortal Kombat that if someone is doing a move, like I said earlier, you see the move. Yeah, I don't like this, million cuts and flurries and then someone's on the ground. So if someone's going to do a triple flip, we would find a gymnast who could do it. We scoured the world looking for martial arts. We found Ray Park, who went on to be Darth Maul, in an open casting somewhere in the northern part of England. And we found him, cast him, put him in the movie. We found Tony Jaa, who was a great martial artist, from Thailand, in Thailand on the second movie and put him in the movie. We constantly scoured the world. I still do it, looking for great martial artists who can act, but who can also do the moves on screen. And that's what we do. And because Mortal Kombat was becoming famous, I mean, I gambled when I got the rights, it wasn't, but then it was. You're not under the normal pressure of having to find an actor with a famous name. Normally, to get a movie financed, you need actors with famous names. But if the title of your movie is based on something famous, you have the audience attention anyway. So it's creatively, it's great. You can just cast people who you love, and we got Robin and Ray and Lyndon and all these people who weren't maybe household names, but were just great. And it's so freeing as a producer to not think, well, we love them, but they don't have 5 million followers. Or, you don't have to do that.
So perfect. And it was fresh new faces. I really loved it. And Carrie Tagwa's Shang Tsung became one of the most iconic video game villains ever put to screen. Did you realize during production that his performance leaves such a lasting impression?
Well, during production, you try and be very present and how do we get the shots today? But we knew he was great. Yeah. I mean, he really was great. He was a good guy, but he really delivered. We tried to figure out how to use him in the second movie because we didn't know, obviously we hoped the first movie would be that big, but we didn't know. And he was killed in the first movie. So we're saying, we can't tell the audience that just because when someone's dead, they're going to come back, because then you will never feel for someone being killed in the whole franchise. Yeah. So we couldn't use him, which was unfortunate, but he was great. He really just sunk his teeth into that role, and you believed him.
With Mortal Kombat Annihilation, looking back, what was the biggest challenge with this one?
The biggest challenge was on the first movie, no one believed the movie would work. So everyone left us alone because they needed the movie. They took a shot. The New Line was great. I had just come off of making some good movies, so they had some belief in me, but they left us alone. In the second movie, the first one was a hit. Everyone was involved. They were all of a sudden, a lot of cooks in the kitchen, and just, for good reasons. But it's harder to marshal a lot of people when everyone is involved. And we had such an array of other productions lined up. Remember, I told the CEO of Midway, if he gave me the rights, I would make it in every medium in the world. So we had 5 years of production plan. We had TV series, animated TV series, a live tour, a sequel album, all this stuff planned. And so the movie had to fit, for business reasons, into a slot. And it really is something that I think about a lot, because from a business perspective, making that movie at that time was correct. I think from a creative perspective, it needed more time. And, you can always Monday morning quarterback, and I take full responsibility for anything that happened. But it probably, as I said, it was on the scope of, we're going to turn this into a juggernaut franchise, phenomenal. And the scope of, we need a little more time, but let's wait for Chris Lambert just because the audience loves him. No slight to the actor who did it. We didn't do it because we would have changed the whole. It would have changed so many other productions. So it was a hard call.
I was curious why Lyndon Ashby didn't return. Was it scheduling for him?
I don't remember if it was scheduling or he didn't want to get killed. I don't remember.
Yeah, because I was curious, when Chris Conrad stepped in and got annihilated at the start of the film, spoiler, was this for shock or just a quick fix for Lyndon's absence?
No, it was written that way.
Yeah, okay. All right.
We wanted to, now if you watch Game of Thrones, which came after that, and the first pilot of Game of Thrones, the good guy gets killed, and the audience goes, "Oh my God, you're telling the audience anything can happen. Be on the lookout," and it's not in the movie. So that's why we killed Shang Tsung, and that's why we killed Johnny Cage. Is it the right or wrong decision? I don't love Monday morning quarterbacking because you can always be a hero, and you just do the best you can at the time.
Chris would have done justice. He is a great actor, and I love him in the movie Airborne and Next Karate Kid. So I was curious to see him in some fight scenes. That would have been good.
We had great people. It was just a question. If you want to tell people that this is not safe, I mean, safe for your characters, it's not a fairy tale.
I got a question about Annihilation Raiden. He was very good, but one thing always made me curious. Why did he cut his hair mid-movie?
I don't remember that. Cut his hair mid-movie?
Yeah, he had long Raiden hair, and then mid-movie he kind of he disappeared, then came back, and they're like, "Oh, Raiden, you cut your hair." I was like, maybe the wig got destroyed. Did he wear wigs?
I honestly don't remember that. I don't know.
That's interesting. Okay, that's another thing I'll ponder forever.
Yeah, me too. I'll have to go back and figure that out.
That's wild. But yeah, another absence in the film was Paul Anderson. Did he decline or just have scheduling conflicts as well?
I don't remember why we didn't use Paul. I think the studio just wanted to take a shot on the director we took.
Okay.
A lot of times everyone thinks of these big decisions and these big things, and sometimes it's like, I like going to this Italian restaurant near where I live, but sometimes I go have sushi instead.
Gotcha.
It's not really that well thought out all the time. And sometimes it's just scheduling, sometimes it's money, sometimes it's the director of the second movie was the DP of the first movie. You want to give everyone a kind of a promotion. So sometimes it's just I don't remember the exact details of it because it's not. Getting Chris to the audience was something incredibly important, Christopher Lambert. So we spent a lot of time on that. But sometimes we say, we're going on this date. Some people just aren't available. They can't do it. They want too much money. They're taking vacation. They moved to England to put their kids in school.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, I always thought it would be scheduling conflicts, and especially because Paul was working on Event Horizon around that time, and that
maybe that was it. I don't remember.
Yeah, that film is another level of horror. I love that so much. Yeah, were there any storylines, characters, or action sequences you wanted to include in Annihilation that audiences never got to see?
The way that in the first movie we went back and reshot the fights, the fights toward the end of the movie that used Tony. You don't see me as the stunt guy that used Tony Jaa. I wanted to do more of. I wanted to redo. I just didn't think they were. I thought they were too rushed. They weren't good enough. I just didn't think they were good enough. And that's me. That's just me being the producer and thinking we got to do the same thing we did last time. But again, the test audiences were so strong. The studio correctly said, we're going to make money. We're not going to spend another X millions of dollars because we're going to make money here. And so you can't blame them for that. And that's what it showed. And the movie did make money. And so you can't do it. But I didn't think those end fights were strong enough.
Nah, yeah, that's one thing I'll agree with. That is shouldn't have been CGI fight. It's kind of like how, the Scorpion King fights, Imhotep and Brendan Fraser at the end. It should have just been normal Rock versus Brendan Fraser fighting. I would have liked to see that. But
listen, making a movie is like being a revolutionary. If you're a revolutionary, you say, I'm going to have a revolution. You're only a hero if you win. In the United States, George Washington led the American Revolution. He won, so he's now a hero 300 years later. But if he didn't win, he would be executed. So it's the same thing with a movie. No one says to a revolutionary, hey, that time you tried to take over Guatemala, good shot at the revolution. Nice try, you didn't make it, but nice try. No one ever says that to you in a movie. Hey, good shot, nice try. And I'm not complaining about it. It's just the way it is. So sometimes you take these shots, and when we say things like, we bet everything on Platoon or Mortal Kombat, and it worked, it's great. But the idea of turning the last fight into a CGI fight, which hadn't really been done at that point too much in movies, was a good idea. It just wasn't. It was a little too new. It was a little too before its time. But you got to take the shot.
Yeah,
I'm never sorry that I took the shot.
It didn't completely fail for me. Like, I loved Cyrax in the film. He was like my favorite character for a long time after seeing Annihilation because of Annihilation. And in the games, I was always playing as him. So yeah, there's that fight was amazing.
When I speak around the world a lot, and not necessarily about this, but I always get a question about the fight with Sonya Blade and Melina they was in the mud, but that wasn't supposed to be mud, but it was in mud. I always get questions about that fight.
Right.
People know it intimately well. And I thought do you remember the one I'm talking about?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I get so many questions about that fight constantly. People seem to love it. They know every move, why this, why that. So, it's hard to tell.
I know there was meant to be a trilogy. Robin had signed on for the third film already. Was there anything written or in motion for it? Was it just a plan?
No, we didn't have anything written for it. It was just a plan. And at the time also, we had we remember we went right from that into a TV series and an animated TV series. So we were making Mortal Kombat for years after that.
Yeah.
And then in the process of that, New Line, our studio, got acquired by Warner Brothers.
So there was no real part of the story you could share where it was going to go, or a rough idea where the third film would have concluded?
No, we didn't get there. There's a TV series called Mortal Kombat Conquest, which is on HBO Max, and that's what we were doing. And we had an animated series called Mortal Kombat Defenders of the Realm. So we spent a few years working on that. We made 50 episodes or something.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot there, and I appreciate it all. So, like, I'm very proud of what you did, and you should be proud of it too. Like, it's something like again, I'm carrying that cutout around with me for 30 years. So, like, I love this movie immensely.
We love hearing that. That's great. Thank you.
And there's actually one thing that just popped in my head before we move on from Mortal Kombat. I seen some rumor that Scorpion was meant to have scorpion hands at some point. Was that true? No? Okay. Yeah, it was all over Facebook the last week.
I mean, again, I can't speak for what Ed and John might have been planning for the game.
Oh, okay.
But in the movies, no.
Right.
No. It was Chris, and, again, the fighting was so good, and, we pulled him off. We pulled it off with the finishing move with his head being on fire and stuff like that. But there was no... If you give a guy like that scorpion hands, you have to incorporate that into the fight, and that has to be part of the fight.
Yeah,
and it's just not what we did. So no, I don't remember any of that.
I don't know where the sources come from. I just seen some YouTube people dissecting some first draft of the Mortal Kombat script recently, like the Mortal Kombat that didn't get made. I don't know if that rings a bell.
When we were developing the first script, there was a huge earthquake in LA called the Northridge earthquake. I mean, devastatingly huge. And everything was closed, and there were disasters everywhere. And the writer, Kevin Joni, called me up and he said, I think I can make it to your house. And that's all he said. It was like 8 o'clock in the morning. There were sirens everywhere. There were fires everywhere. He came over and we just worked on the movie all day. I mean, that's how great movies get made. But also, there are a million things you try and talk about. If I say to you, hey, you want to go eat sushi, so I'm allergic to fish, we didn't plan to go to eat sushi. We talked about it, but quickly we decided not to do it. So, someone could always have found some drafts or something, or some memo I wrote saying, hey, I got an idea, but it never advanced to being a serious idea. We never made costumes for it. We never made weapons for it. His weapon went in his hand. So if you did that, he would cover up his hand. So there's no way we would have done that.
And that's in the game essentially too. So where did it come from? It's like,
there's just no way. Listen, I love it though when people ask these kind of questions, because it means they're involved in it. They're interested in it. They want to know why you're doing it. So I think that's great. I love when people ask those questions, and I love that they care.
Yeah. Like, that's why I wanted to dig into the third film idea, because I wanted to see those original characters carry on more. Like, I love what they're doing now with the new ones just to keep Mortal Kombat alive. But I miss the 95 versions of the guys, and I'd like to see where their third film would have went should Annihilation been successful. So that's one thing I was really interested in. But as I said before, you also produced the film Beowulf starring Christopher Lambert. So love this film so much, but Beowulf is obviously based on a poem. What inspired you to bring this to life?
Well, when I was a kid in school, we studied that poem, and I always liked the story. And I always liked the story of it. And we wanted to make another movie with Chris. But that movie was a disaster. I mean, honestly. I mean, what happened with that movie was, and I'm glad to see you like it, because I think you're the only one. Yeah, I'm kidding. But the company who was financing the movie went bankrupt in pre-production of the movie. So the money that was supposed to be there to make the movie, I forget the exact numbers. And maybe they didn't go bankrupt. Maybe they had money troubles. But what we had signed on to do, we got a minuscule percentage of. But we had already signed. And long story, contractually, we still had to do it. So we had to make that movie for a fraction, like really a fraction of what was budgeted. And, no fault of this happens sometimes for whatever did it. But the idea of the movie, the production design idea, was supposed to be this kind of future past. And then we like that idea, and we like Chris as the main character, and it was a good idea, but we just didn't have we had to go. All of a sudden, we had to. If someone said you got to do your podcast, but now you got to do it from under a bridge with an iPhone, and that's it. But you got to do it because you got, I don't know, the president of the United States on or something. What would you do? You probably figure it out anyway.
Yeah,
even though maybe So that's what we were up against in that movie. They tried to make a motion capture Beowulf a few years later. It's a tough story.
Yeah. I often ask people if they've seen Beowulf, and they say, "Yeah, I've seen Beowulf," but I quickly realize that they
I mean
are
the other
talking
way.
about the animation, and I'm like, "No, you got to see this version, your version." So I know you're saying it was an epic fail or whatever, but to me, it's so badass. It's very underrated, and I always demand people to watch it. So like,
No,
I
that's
highly
great.
applaud of it. Like the animation film didn't come out till what, 8 years later.
I know. I'm like that.
Yeah, but Beowulf simultaneously featured briefly in Antonio Banderas's film The 13th Warrior. I haven't seen that one yet, but I've been meaning to see it.
Yeah.
But I'm curious now. But I believe your film was the first Beowulf adaptation into a film.
Yeah, I think so. And again, great characters, great idea for an adaptation.
Mm. Yeah, it's also quite hard to find it anywhere in Australia. It's not on any streaming
It's hard to
sites.
find it here too.
Yeah, there's no DVD or Blu-ray, but I went out of my way to import the Blu-ray from Germany recently.
Oh,
I think
that's
it came from
great.
Germany. I took a risk on it because it was the whole website was in German. The writing on the cover was German, and I didn't know if there was an English dub. I got it here and I put it in. It was region B, so it worked in Australia, but all the menus were in German. So I'm clicking everything to try to find if there's anything that resembles English. And there is. There's an English.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so I got to watch it in HD in all its glory.
Oh, that's
and,
great.
Yeah,
Oh, good.
I cherish that. I cherish it a lot.
Glad.
I remember seeing it at the video store when it came out with Lambert on the cover, with the subtitle from the producers of Mortal Kombat. I backflipped all the way to the checkout with that copy in my hand. I still have the original video store poster in my storage. It's a bit crumbled, but yeah, I really love this film. And
thank you.
It brings me like a massive like sadness when no one knows of it. So I think it should definitely give it another chance. Anyone watching for sure.
Or maybe one day it'll pop up on Netflix and everyone will like it again.
Again, the soundtrack on this one, amazing. Like again,
that's all right. That's the one KMFDM wrote.
Yeah. Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
They got this one song on in my car, which I don't think is KMFDM, but it's like Burn 'Em Down or something. It's during the first fight scene. I love that song so much. Had that in rotation a lot. I'm super curious though, because this like the intro of this film is basically Mortal Kombat. Is it like it's like the template of Mortal Kombat with the logo, the fire spitting out and everything. Was that intentional?
No, I mean, no one said, hey, let's make it look like Mortal Kombat. But, you know, when you have something that's not working really well, lots of people said, hey, let's try it. And we do like jumping into things, and we're trying to establish a new franchise. And I like movies that get going right away. I don't like movies that have a 20-minute preamble. You know, I always love the way they do James Bond movies where it starts with the end of his last mission. So you're right in the action. So there was just an attempt to do that.
Yeah, mind you, I don't care. Like this movie's felt like Mortal Kombat 2 to me more than Annihilation did for some reason. It's basically Mortal Kombat Game of Thrones mixed together with Christopher Lambert. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
I love it.
I mean, I think there's a lot of demand for that kind of a movie, you know, sexy fantasy martial arts. There's just a lot of demand for it, some of which has not been filled, some of which we're soon to announce something that we're trying to fill it. I just think it's a great genre that isn't made enough.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's by far a major recommendation of mine for anyone who's a fan of the 1995 Mortal Kombat movie, Game of Thrones, techno soundtracks overlaid with epic fight scenes with monsters. Tough to find. You might want to dust off the VCR or import the Blu-ray from Germany. Highly recommend it.
Thank you.
Yeah, before we change the topic of Mortal Kombat and such, you were the executive producer on the new Mortal Kombat films. What was it like working on those, especially the recently released sequel?
You know, it's all great, but as I said, I'm the executive producer, not the producer, and so I'm a bit more removed. And I just think it's phenomenally gratifying to see the franchise continue, to see the fan base, old and new, come. You know, we have people now. Sometimes we have people whose grandparents, parents, and kids all watch Mortal Kombat, but they maybe have got into it at different places along the timeline. That's all very, very, very gratifying. And it's fantastic. So, you know, there's just so many times for me, I consider and say, okay, well, boy, 30 years is amazing. I don't spend too much time doing that. I spend most of my time thinking, what's my next movie? And how can I jump to the next movie? I've got this. I've achieved more than I ever dreamt possible on Mortal Kombat. And so now, okay, what's the next one? And that's what I spend all my time doing.
Gotcha. So, like you're saying, the executive producer, you're more removed. What was your main roles on the last two?
Well, my main role is being executive producer. And so
Yeah.
just in general, an executive producer is a bit more like, if you think of a company, I remember I used a real estate developer. So
Yeah.
an executive producer is more like a chairman versus a CEO. They tend to not be involved in the day-to-day, but these titles are not written in stone. They're not scientific. They're not defined everywhere. It just depends on it. But there's a great team of people working on it. It's continuing to go. My goal was to launch this franchise. And, one of the really gratifying things is, there's two things. One, it's part of the lexicon in the world now. Mortal Kombat and the stuff we did and the stuff we thought up while, sitting there thinking, are we going to have a company tomorrow? Is this going to work? Is now part of the whole world lexicon. But every now and then we find someone, and I'm not like the following. After I spoke one day, some guy came up to me and he was in the Iraq War. And in the Iraq War, I guess as a U.S. soldier, if I have this right, you got to bring in those days something like 3 DVDs. You had a little player, and they were called like comfort DVDs. Like, you just had a few, and you had a little player, and you could watch them if you couldn't sleep at night. And he said to me, the first Mortal Kombat movie got me through the war. I watched it over and over and over in my bunker with bombs going off 2 miles away from me, and it got me through the war. So thank you. And I thought, oh my God. I mean, it's so thrilling and so gratifying to hear that type of thing. And granted, not everyone, feels that way about the movies, but some people do. So you look at it and you say, this is like a kid now going to college. He doesn't need to call me every day anymore. Once a week is fine. And so that's sort of what goes on with Mortal Kombat. The franchise is a great bunch of people involved in it. It's doing great. It continues to grow. The one that just came out was not only, it had a $40 million first weekend in the United States, which is the franchise best. So not only is it still doing well after 30 years, it's doing better. And it was also the same weekend, it was the #1 new movie in India. We're doing a bunch of other stuff in India. And so it's now working in parts of the world it never worked at. It never even was in before. So it's just so gratifying. You don't want to, the point of a producer is wherever there's a problem, you got to be the solution. But if there's not a problem, don't butt in. You got to know what to do. I just saw a thing with, Steven Spielberg describing how he works with Leonardo DiCaprio, and he says, Leo knows when he's done with the take, so I let him decide. I don't butt in, and you got to know when to be all over some problem in a movie, but you also got to know, you guys know what it was like working with Arnold on the movies we did together. He knows exactly what to do. I mean, I remember one day we're playing, poker on the set, and someone comes again and he goes, wait 1 minute. And he goes, delivers an iconic, famous line in the movie, comes back, goes, okay, I raise you 10. I mean, some people just know exactly what to do. And that's part of the art of the whole thing. When you have to be everywhere on something and when you don't. Christopher Lambert, when I said, on the set, be funny, be yourself, deliver that line. I didn't have to write it for him. That's the art of trying to figure out how you get the best performance out of people, but you can't over push them when they don't need to.
It's a very important job, and I highly applaud you for it. There's a lot of decisions here which I can see you're behind, and thank you for doing it. And I agree, Mortal Kombat is a comfort film for me too. Like, regardless of the violence and the screaming and everything, it brings me back to home, back to the 90s and all those experiences. Yeah. That's why I listen to the soundtrack so much too. Like, in my everyday life, it just puts me at a good mood all the time. So yeah, it's definitely one of those films for me. But yeah, both the 1995 film Annihilation have got a 4K release in a limited edition box set over at Arrow Video this month, and is available to order now through Sanity Australia for those curious. I cannot wait to see it in 4K. Get the box set.
That's great. That's great. Chris Casamassa had a party last summer when it was actually the 30th anniversary of the first one coming out, and then he got a print of the film, invited a whole theater's worth of people that they opened it to the public. It was a blast. It was like going home again.
That's amazing. But yeah, no other film has excited me so much, and it's paid off so well. Great. So yeah, it's amazing. On the opposite end of the spectrum, you were involved with a very unique family film that I have loved forever. And in Australia, it's known as Upworld. I believe it's called A Gnome Named Norm elsewhere, which has become a very quirky cult classic, I believe.
Oh, come on, you're kidding me. Are you serious?
Oh, I love this film, and I'm not sure. I'm actually not sure if it's cult status, if there is any, but I haven't never really seen anyone talk about it. But I love it, and I don't even know if it's considered a good movie to people, but by your reaction, I'm guessing it is
Well,
not well
as I said,
received.
in that my first job at Vestron where I made Platoon, and
Yep.
we made Dirty Dancing as well. I had to make 80 movies a year, buy them,
Yeah.
produce them, make them, whatever. And so that's very, 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 very fast, and you can't possibly, as a studio executive, you're even a bit more removed than, as I said, an executive producer is usually a little bit more removed than a producer, not always, but usually. Um, and so a gnome named Norm came up because there was a guy named Stan Winston who was a genius of creature effects. So Stan did before CGI, he did a lot of the physical building of the Jurassic Park dinosaurs. He built all the stages of the Terminator in Terminator 2 for us. And he became a really good friend, and he had this project. And that was me backing Stan as a director. And I thought Anthony Michael Hall was hysterical.
Yeah.
But as I said, that was one of 80 movies we made that year. We gave Stan the shot. It didn't seem to really hit with audiences. We never got anything terribly bad about it. And it was cute, and it made money, a little bit of money, not a lot of money. But we just never really hear about it because if you make 80 movies a year, they don't all work. If you look at your Netflix or whatever streamer you watch, there's a lot of movies that come out that you say, oh, you don't really know what it is. They aren't all hits. And No Name Norm was kind of what we used to call a programmer. It was kind of a good, lighthearted movie, but it was never a superstar movie.
No, I
But
loved
Stan
it.
was a great guy. And
Yeah.
it was certainly, if you're going to bet on a movie like that, he was the guy to do it. And this was a little bit, before, today you would never make, obviously, No Name Norm with actual puppets. Norm was a puppet. You'd make it with CGI or AI today. But in those days, we made it as a puppet to highlight what
Yeah.
Stan was good at doing.
Yeah, I was curious if that was a complete puppet or anyone was inside that at all. So it was 100% puppet?
Well, it was a puppet. I don't think someone was inside it. They had many guys controlling it, but maybe they did. I don't remember. As I said, I
Okay.
wasn't there every day because it was just one of the many things we were doing. And there was, we would bet on things. We'd say, okay, well, what's the concept here? Who's directing the movie here? What, in that vein, in those days, we made all these low budget horror movies. And someone came in, this woman director named Jackie Kong came in and pitched something called Blood Diner. And it was so crazy. And I thought, we'll take one step and we'll make the poster. Because sometimes in those days, we made the poster first. And if we liked the poster, we thought, at least we can sell it. So the poster came back from our poster department, and it was beautiful. It was this Art Deco kind of diner, and it said, Blood Diner, first they greet you, then they eat you. And I thought, oh my God, that is hysterical. And I thought, I didn't understand the script. I didn't really get it. My staff wanted to make it. And I thought, one day, I'm going to remember making this movie, and I'm going to be glad I did. And so on that hunch, I greenlit the movie. When the movie came out, honestly, I still didn't get it. Right before the pandemic, I got a phone call saying, would I come to Quentin Tarantino has a kind of art film cinema that shows art films in Beverly Hills. Would I come to a screening, a midnight screening of Blood Diner? I said, are you kidding me? Like what I just said to you. It turns out Blood Diner has become a cult movie. It screens all over the world, all over the country, maybe all over the world. It's still screening, and I couldn't believe it. And by the way, I still didn't get it. But the audience loved it. You couldn't get a seat. So every now and then, these movies you take a shot on, which in those days, no one's making 80 movies a year anymore. But in those days, you think everything is this long, drawn-out decision. Like sometimes I said, why not this director for the sequel? Sometimes you're going so fast, which is probably a mistake, but you don't get to do it. I greenlit Blood Diner because I like the poster. And it turns out to be a great move. I greenlit A Gnome Named Norm because I like Stan. It turned out to be not such a great move.
I gotcha. That's very interesting. And yeah, it is kind of odd. Like some people don't connect to films and some do. Like there's a lot of films that I know a lot of people don't like that I love, but it's because I watched them at an early age. Upworld was definitely one of them. I know Neverending Story 3 is very forgotten and hated,
great
but
movies,
I love Neverending Story 3. So with the Upworld, Anthony Michael Hall, amazing, Edward Scissorhands and Breakfast Club, who carried the film. And obviously with the puppet, I love how quirky and funny he was. And every time I hear the song Lowrider, I think of Upworld.
Right, that's great.
So it sticks with me. But yeah, changing the topic here. Here at Movieland, we love recommending movies. Can you give us 6 movies to watch? Old, new, all-time favorite, sky's the limit.
The Empire Strikes Back, The Godfather 1 and 2, the original Arthur, Risky Business. If you haven't seen it, though, I would strongly encourage people to watch Platoon.
All right, thank you so much for bearing with
Thank
me
you.
with the
It was
1,001
good.
questions.
No,
I
I've
really
enjoyed it. I'm so glad you like the movies. It's so gratifying.
I really enjoyed exploring behind the scenes with you, and always been so curious. So you've answered a lot of questions for me, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure.